Sounds of spring. Saturday morning about 6:30, I went ahead and got up when the rooster crowed. So Saturdays are a day of baking and a day of cleaning around here. So first thing on the agenda this morning is laundry. So one of the things I've done in an attempt to be a little more self-sufficient and less dependent on a supermarket is making my own homemade laundry soap. Made from washing soda and borax, and then a bar of soap of your choice. The exact directions in the credits. So I just one day worked in the kitchen with the kids, grating up soap and mixing. I actually also used a container of Tide because my husband loves the smell of it. I keep a small amount in here, and I've got a little scooper in it. Put 2 scoops in the washer, load it up with clothes, and it's good to go. It makes it so each load only costs me somewhere between 3 and 5 cents, depending on whether or not I get a sale on items. This is the clean pile that I need to get folded. I easily have just as much that still needs washed, if not twice as much. 7:30 and the laundry's folded. Took an hour. Normally, if the children are awake, it'll take me at least 2 hours because I'm dealing with the baby and the toddler. Now just to put it all away. Chickens are hungry. It's time to feed them for the morning. They'll even come out and knock at they'll knock at the door begging for food. I've been following Abundant Permaculture's reduction in feed. And so I feed right about 2 of these a day. And someone always wants to get in the feed container and help themselves. Oh my. When I first started my chickens, I'd seen all the nifty things on Pinterest about self-feeders. So the first thing we tried was this PVC pipe. It didn't work. Second thing we tried was that trash can under there, and it worked really good. But the chickens were eating a massive amount of food. I was going through a bag of feed every 2 weeks. So since I have changed and switched to self-feeding, I'm going through a bag in more than a month. Ooh, okay, this is the other animal on my farm. This is my cat, and she's catching a mouse. Ready for Lilo. Let's see if we can catch it on film. I saw her out here hunting earlier, and I tried to get it from the window, but she's really good about catching mice, snakes, and birds. And then the chickens love to fight over her kill. So it looks like the chickens also need water. I only have to fill this thing about every 2 days. It still has to be filled, but it's a lot better than what I had. We've also tried a contraption that way on water, and we'll adjust that this summer and I'll show it to you. Yesterday was Earth Day. If I would have known I was vlogging, I would have taken it to the garden center. We went and got some red cabbage, broccoli, and kale. And for spending $10, we got a free thing of strawberries. Got my onion sets, both yellow and red, and then some potato starts. Headed out to gather eggs for the morning. I never got out yesterday, so I'll probably have over 14 eggs out here. I have this little bucket that I just keep my kitchen scraps in, and any scraps I just go ahead and dump out to the chickens. We're going crazy on some right now. I tend to just walk out on the porch and chuck it. So on my chicken coop, I've got this little door that I can just lift up. Ooh. Okay, so see this? This little girl has been going broody off and on. And she's pretty puffy. Tried putting this box in here with some eggs to tempt her in. Obviously, she's not in it. So I'm going to go on ahead and collect the eggs over here. As I said, I didn't collect eggs yesterday, And I only have 6 eggs that were in that, which means this birdie is probably sitting on a bunch of them, thinking she's gonna claim them. You snuggling the bug? He's pretty sweet, huh? Cade's such a good big brother. And little Ronnie just loves to snuggle him. My other auto washer that I make sure I reload every day. My oldest son, his responsibility is to unload the dishwasher. This is little Squishy, or Cody. And his job that he insists upon and is loading the soap. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
Can you open it?
Yeah.
Okay, open it. Put it in.
Yeah.
Good job. Can you close the dishwasher?
Yeah.
Just shut it. Oh, good job. Saturday is bread making day, so I'm going to show you real quick how I make my grandmother's wheat bread, and I'll have the instructions down below. So in making my bread, I just quickly get a cup of water, that's warm water, get 5 teaspoons of yeast and honey. This recipe calls for half a cup of honey. To just sit for a while until the yeast is activated. So after about 5 to 8 minutes, then your yeast will start to look like this, all bubbly. So the next thing my recipe calls for is a scalded milk blend. I do 2 cans of evaporated milk with 3 cups of hot water out of the tap, because my tap's really hot. You want to make sure that mixture isn't hot, it's just lukewarm, or it'll kill your yeast. So after I add the liquid mixture, I also add a half a cup of shortening. I've already pre-measured this out. And then I also add, it calls for 3 tablespoons of salt, which is a lot of salt. So I have scaled this back to, I only do 2 tablespoons. Excuse you, buddy, so they can see.
Hey.
Thanks. So I just go ahead and put it in there. Start out with 2 cups of whole wheat. And just let that in first. And go ahead and mix it up. And then we'll go ahead and add in the rest of the flour. So after adding the wheat flour, then you're still going to be a really sloppy mess. And you want to start with about half of your white flour and go from there to where it's just sticky but manageable. Okay, so once the dough has gotten to a point that it's hard to stir with a spoon, then you're going to want to get your hands messy. And it is normal for it to be a gigantic mess on your hands. You want to just keep mixing it while it's still sticking to your fingers, but my grandma was always able to leave it wetter than I can. As long as you don't overflour it too much, then it'll still be okay. I always get to this point every single time and it's like, can someone get me a cup of flour? I didn't get enough. And that's where I'm filling right now. So it's always fun to fill yourself up when you're covering on it. So I just go ahead and add a little bit more. So once you get to this point that it's kind of manageable, kind of mixed in, then I just go ahead and dump it out on the counter, as it's a lot easier to mix on the counter than, it smells good, so he's determined it should taste good, but at this point your bread just doesn't taste that great, because it tastes better once it's risen and cooked. Then you just get some elbow grease in it and get it mixed up. So if it's starting to look a little overfloured, just pull it out of your pile of flour and bring it back a little bit. Please keep your hands out.
Yeah.
Making bread is kind of an art. It just takes a little bit of time to learn what you're doing. So once we get it kneaded up here, I'll put it back in the container with a little bit of grease or Pam spray and let it sit for, it really only usually takes about an hour for mine, maybe an hour and a half for it to rise to double, and we'll go from there. Now that I have the bread covered and sitting somewhere safe where the 2-year-old won't get to it, then I'm gonna go ahead and come out. Gonna give the chickens their second scoop of feed for the day. So once again, just pint jar full. I try and make sure it's all the way full, and then just check it out. So there's my possible broody hen. Back off the eggs. And this is the issue I've been having. She pretends like she's going to go broody. So there's what she'd been sitting on. This one looks like she's laying her egg. So we have some there. Oh, I was gonna fill the eggs, see if they're warm. So the eggs are cold. So she hasn't been sitting on them for a while. I just saw a mouse out here over by the fence there just a little bit ago, and a couple chickens took off after it and it dove back under. Someone was helping me with the flour, now he's kind of covered in it. This is wiped down a little bit better. Okay, once the dough has doubled in size, we go ahead and uncover it and beat it back down. So mine is pretty sticky still, which is a good thing. I was afraid I'd kind of over flour. So I go ahead and cut it in half and then cut it in half again with just a bread knife.
With knife.
From here, just kind of shape it and put them in each container and cover and let rise. Once the bread is shaped, then you just let it sit and raise until it forms nice round loaves. So bread is all raised and ready to go in the oven, set at 350, and we'll just put it inside. And the bread's done. A couple of them fell in, but you know what? It's still gonna taste good. It doesn't have to be perfect. So bread's done cooking. It turned out good enough. Some of the tops fell in, but that's just aesthetic. It still tastes the same. So thanks for tuning in.